What's up, everybody? This is Josh, and welcome to episode 1 of my Adventures in Trading podcast. I think when you start something new, it's important to give a little background. So, my name is Josh, and I've been playing Magic the Gathering for over 20 years. I started right after Revise came out, and the rest is history. I've found that I'm not a competitive player. I definitely fall into that casual arena, but I certainly enjoy collecting and trading more than I do playing the game. Recently, I've had an opportunity to step up my trading game, whether it's through Puka Trade, the Magic Online Trade League, Facebook groups, you name it. I've really decided to go all in as a trader and build my collection to something absolutely incredible. Foiling out my decks, collecting masterpieces, and yes, even hunting the elusive Power 9 cards have become an absolute challenge for me. It's been a ton of fun here lately, chasing everything down, traveling around the state of Florida, and even around the country, visiting various Grand Prix and Star City Games events. I have a passion for it. I really enjoy it, and that's why I started this podcast, was to tell everybody about some of my trading adventures, the neat cards that I have seen, and even some of the places that I've stopped in, so that way you can check them out too. I take a very interesting approach to trading, and I think for a lot of people, it's to accomplish a goal. And for me, it's not necessarily about just getting one card and accomplishing that single goal. I think trading has to serve a lot of different purposes. For some people, it's building an overall collection. Let's say you want to collect pieces for the modern format, and you'd like to be able to play a lot of different decks. So that would encompass having multiple copies of things like Kitchen Finks and Fetch Lands, Fast Lands, you name it. But for me, I think trading really is more of a service. And I'll explain that a little bit. The way I approach trading is that I am helping you to accomplish a need, and you're helping me to accomplish a need. And so by that end, we should help each other. So I don't try and win on every trade. I don't try and eke out gains. I'm not one of those people that sits there and looks up buy list values because I'm trying to score, extra a couple of dollars over my trading partner. What I really look at is, do I need this card, and can I turn around and trade this card quickly? For example, tonight I had the opportunity to visit Ready Set Game in Indian Harbor Beach, Florida. The shop owner there, Chris Sugarman, just so happens to be a very close friend of mine. And I was there for a few hours. I brought most of my trade collection and sat down and talked to quite a few of the local people there who happen to be my friends. And we put some pretty big trades together. I left out of there with a couple of new masterpieces in the form of Painter's Servant, and also in Lightning Greaves, and also a Verdant Catacombs Expedition. I didn't really have to trade too hard for those, but there were cards that the people that had there didn't really want. They weren't building anything that required a Lightning Greaves. They weren't playing anything with a Verdant Catacombs. And for them, it was more about accomplishing, gathering cards up for other decks. So for me, it was an opportunity to pick up high-end cards, which I know I can move. I don't personally need either one of any of these cards, rather, but it was an opportunity for me to get something that I know I can take to other stores around South Florida when I travel, and I will move those very quickly. Option 2, and I'm a big fan of this, you guys will hear me mention a lot in future podcasts, PukaTrade.com. If you have not checked out Puka Trade when the future site, or since the future site has launched, it is tremendous. Guys, I have picked up over $2,000 worth of cards in the last 2 weeks. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I really think that people should give Puka Trade another shot if you have in the past, or if you haven't, definitely check it out. A sidebar to that is joining the Discord channel. The Discord app you guys will find in the Apple App Store, or you can just go to discordapp.com. That's APP. And the community there is thriving. Puka Trade has evolved. It's not just I build a list and I get things that I want anymore. It's turned into a community. People are doing reciprocal trades around the world, and it's really neat to watch. So yes, you still have to post the haves and the wants. Yes, you still have to be willing to send cards blindly, and sometimes you pay shipping, and sometimes they go to Sweden. Mine are going to Australia this week. But I've been able to use Puka Trade to really accomplish some trade goals and build my first EDH deck. I'm not an EDH player. I'm not by any stretch one of those people that likes to sit around and play 4-hour games. That's not my thing. But accomplishing trade goals and building a really cool deck and just having a good, solid collection piece is. And that's what Puka Trade's allowed me to accomplish. So a couple of other cards I picked up tonight. I'm just going to mention these because I think it's fun to let you guys know what I'm targeting. Some of these will make sense to you. Some of these are just kind of weird. But, it's stuff that I think I can move. It's things that everybody probably has in their collection in some varying degree or form. The first one that I'll start out with here is Spirebluff Canal, and followed by Wooded Foothills. So the new Fastlands, I can't tell you how many copies of these I have traded within the last couple of weeks. Spirebluff Canal especially has been the big one. The value on that card is creeping up if you follow MTG Goldfish or MTG Stocks. It's one that with Saheeli Rai currently at her new price of $18, it's going to be around for a while. If you guys remember the old Fastlands from the Scars block, they have retained their value, and especially foils. Look at Blackcleave Cliffs. That card is fantastic in terms of a good trade pickup because you'll always move them. Jund players, they play them. You're going to see them all over the place if you ever go to a Modern tournament. But I picked up the Spirebluff Canal as a throw-in, actually, on a different trade. Wooded Foothills and the Khans of Tarkir, specifically I'm looking at a Khans of Tarkir copy. Those fetch lands, again, are tradable. People are playing this card left, right, and sideways, and the Khans fetch lands are certainly less expensive than Onslaught, so they're a little bit more liquid. Other cards that I picked up is just kind of random speculations and throw-ins. Noxious Gearhulk and Verdurous Gearhulk. If I butchered the name, you can make fun of me. I'm sorry. But the Gearhulks are decent pickups right now, especially, again, with Saheeli and the artifacts. Attention around all of it. Looks like there will actually be artifact-based standard decks here that don't run Aetherworks Marvel and do some silly combo. But you may actually see an artifact aggro deck with this new Aether Revolt standard. So beyond that, other things that I picked up, Bloodstained Mire kind of goes in there with the Wooded Foothills in terms of a fetch land pickup. I did grab a copy of Concealed Courtyard again. We're talking the Fastlands. Smuggler's Copter, I've been through probably 10 copies in the last month. I got a really cool copy of Chain Lightning as a throw-in in a trade. It was just kind of a deal evener. And then I picked up some other cards that I think are maybe a little interesting right now. Collective Brutality and Reanimate, I'm going to put hand in hand. The reason for that is because Black-Red Reanimator in Legacy is a very real deck. Unfortunately, when I went to the Invitational in Atlanta, I played against that deck a couple of different rounds in a Legacy side event. And even though I play Metalworker and I've got Trinispheres and Chalice of the Voids and you name it, and I should be able to stop their reanimation tactics, I wasn't. I was certainly not able to. And it was kind of frustrating. So I think Reanimate being the fact that it's $17 right now, and Collective Brutality has just been seeing play everywhere. I've seen copies of it pop up in Jund in the main board and the sideboard, and for Black-Red Reanimate, it is fantastic because it allows you to reveal your own hand and actually pitch targets. So it's a discard spell for yourself. It's really cool. So I picked up both of those. I know I'll be able to move them very quickly. And the last one was kind of interesting for me. Heliod, God of the Sun. Now we're going back to Theros block a little bit, but I think Heliod certainly pops up in quite a few commander lists. It's just got that neat casual playability, pretty powerful effect. I think it's a good card to have around and certainly sitting in the binder, and I'll probably be able to move it pretty quickly. So those are just a couple of the trade pickups that I've had tonight. Again, that was from Ready Set Games in Indian Harbor Beach, Florida. Good scene there. They regularly fire at Legacy tournaments, which is kind of rare for the East Coast of Florida, outside of major cities like Jacksonville or Miami. And their modern scene is pretty well thriving. Now, I would say like most shops, their core focus is going to be on draft and certainly on standard play. They get good turnouts every Friday night for Friday Night Magic. But overall, they've got a good scene going for Modern and Legacy. And in fact, some of the Commander players around there invest pretty heavily in their Commander decks, which makes no sense to me as to why they're not playing Legacy even more regularly. So I would tell you to definitely check it out if you're ever on the East Coast of Florida, or specifically in Indian Harbor Beach. Chris is a great owner-operator. He's certainly a fantastic friend of mine, and I can't plug his store enough. So I want to get into speculation a little bit and talk about some targets that I'm going to be shooting for when I go to pre-release. Yes, pre-release is actually this coming Friday, and it's always a blast. Pre-release is a ton of fun. First you're up at midnight and you're playing cards until, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you're going to go get breakfast, and it's a ball. I love pre-release, and there's always this resistance, I guess, from traders, or the things that I hear about people not picking up some of the bigger cards right out of the gate. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. If you guys have seen the release on Expeditions and now Masterpieces, it's very much the same way. If you open one of those on pre-release, you've basically opened a golden ticket for a solid 4 or 5 days. And if you don't throw that card on eBay or ship it on Facebook, you are really missing out on some profit opportunities. But for me, I don't pick those cards up on pre-release night. Some people are all about it, and I can tell you, if I open a Chalice of the Void, which I need 4 of, sadly, I will be keeping it. And in fact, if somebody does have a Chalice of the Void, these Painter's Servants, Lightning Greaves, and Verdant Catacombs that are sitting here to my right could very well be targets that I move to pick up a Chalice. The problem with that is it's pre-release. The full set hasn't been released yet. And I am going to mention the giant looming thing in front of us. Walmart doesn't have their packs yet. Yes, Walmart sells packs of cards. Yes, people buy packs from Walmart at midnight when they go to pick up a sub or they go grocery shopping, they're doing whatever, and the set isn't out yet. So quantity is not there. And what you have, especially on TCG Player, on eBay, or again, these Facebook groups, people just want to snatch up the cards because they want them and they're in front of them, but they don't actually wait until the price settles. I'll give you an example. When I went to pre-release, someone opened a Watery Grave Expedition. And they approached me and they said, "Do you want this?" And I said, "Of course I want it. What price are you asking?" So they immediately pulled up TCG Player and just quoted me the TCG Player price. So my reply was simply, it's great, it's neat, I really like it, but if it's TCG Player price and you want me to pay you that in cash, I'll just order it on TCG Player. And of course that was a little off-putting to somebody, but when you really break it down, it's why would I hand you cash right now when I know that card is going to drop in value probably 25 or 30% in the next couple of weeks. So guys, I will tell you that yes, I am going to be targeting masterpieces at pre-release. Chalice of the Void, Sundering Titan, Wormcoil Engine. Again, I play Metalworker and Legacy, so sadly this masterpiece release is going to hit me for about 17 cards, and it's going to get a little expensive, but I'm not going to jump the gun. If you look at some of the other masterpieces, Lightning Greaves is a prime example. When that card first released, $50, $60. Tonight I traded for that Lightning Greaves somewhere around $44. So the other part is people are going to want to take cards from your binder that have very high values because the cards that they pulled are perceived as having a very high value. I do say perceived, and I mean perceived. At the time of pre-release, cards will be at their high. Hype will be real, but do your best to resist it. So for me, I would say after Aether Revolt releases, I'm going to be targeting some of the masterpieces. I already mentioned a couple: Sundering Titan, Wormcoil Engine, Chalice of the Void. I also need Trinispheres, Staff of Domination. Basically any card that you could slot into a standard Metalworker deck, that's what I'm going to be targeting. But there's other interesting things that I think are going to be pretty good targets. Grim Flayer and Liliana have been really, really interesting. Now, obviously, they're seeing a lot of crazy standard play right now in Black-Green Delirium. But I think that when this new set comes out, people are going to be brewing enough that the cards may see a little dip in price. And if and when that happens, I might pick a couple up. But I think looking beyond the current standard metagame right now, in other cards that I'll be looking to pick up, Kitchen Finks is going crazy. Kitchen Finks is $15. So I think that anywhere that I can pick up a Kitchen Finks at any kind of reasonable trade value, let's say somebody wants fast lands or they want something, weird and standard, I'm happy to move it. Other items that I'll be picking up, I'm not really building any decks outside of this EDH deck, and I need some weird cards and some very expensive Judge foils. I'm going to stay away from Modern for a little bit. There's spoilers coming up for Modern Masters 2017, which I hope to see you all in Las Vegas for. But I just am very nervous right now. I'm trying like crazy to move my last couple of copies of Liliana, the Veil, and Snapcaster Mage. There was a lot of discussion tonight at Ready Set Game about which cards might see a reprint, logically which ones are coming in. If you want my opinion, and I've been wrong plenty of times before, but I think the Scars Fast lands are going to see a reprint. If you think about the previous Modern Masters sets that we've had, there's some really interesting lands that get reprinted. We had the Vivid block of lands that were reprinted, and I think that the Scars Fast lands would slot in there pretty easily. Now, that also being said, I think the Innistrad lands could as well. Sulphur Falls, I love that card. I would love to see it reprinted. So I'm going to say Innistrad and Scars lands are my vote. There's a lot of conversation around fetch lands. I'll be honest with you, I moved my last couple of copies of Scalding Tarn tonight for some pretty good trades, and I think that that's okay. Now, the flip side of this is if they don't reprint them, then those cards are going to go through the roof. But I think it's a pretty safe bet at this point that Snapcaster Mage and Liliana the Veil are two of the most played cards in the format, and they are due for a reprint. Other cards like Tarmogoyf, I moved my last couple of copies of Modern Masters Tarmogoyfs simply because I wasn't playing Jund anymore. I've switched over to Abzan Collected Company in Modern. I enjoy that deck a lot more than I did Jund. I know, I'm sorry. Yes, I subscribed to Jundamount for a long time, but I just switched it up. So I think that moving the Tarmogoyfs, they reprinted it in 1, they reprinted it in 2. It's likely to see a reprint in 3 because you can't just ride on a set and have value on Liliana and Snapcaster Mage. You know, the other cards that I think are really interesting, Surgical Extraction just recently spiked, and the Phyrexian Mana conversation is pretty interesting. Gitaxian Probe, there's some conversation around banning the card. Do I think it deserves a ban? Not in my opinion, but that card is $4 right now. Other cards, you know, Dismember, granted I know we don't have Mental Misstep, but Gutshot still sees some fringe random play. You know, so Phyrexian Mana is something else I'm going to be watching out for. So if you guys haven't already looked at Dismembers or, you know, Surgical Extractions, if you have them sitting around, that's a really interesting conversation. So I think overall my trade targets here for about the next month are going to be Watch Aether Revolt. Dovin Bond seems like a pretty cool standard pickup. I love Planeswalkers, and he's relatively inexpensive right now. So Dovin Bond might be one where I target a couple of copies, and then just where I can, you know, round out the rest of my Scars lands to finish out my play sets, and take a look at masterpieces where I can move standard cards to pick up other masterpieces. Well, guys, this is it. I appreciate everyone tuning in for the very first episode. I promise to continue to update you regularly on my trade adventures, letting you know what I let go and for what. I think that that's always the interesting thing, is the mentality behind the trading of what did I trade and why. You know, for me, I don't keep too many cards as sentimental. There's a playset of Metalworkers that I will never part with. I don't care what you do. And also a playset of Force of Wills that are double signed by Richard Garfield and Therese Nielsen. Those just happen to be my favorite cards in my collection, and I'm never going to sell them. Never going to trade them. Never going to get rid of them outside of an elusive Power 9 trade. But I highly doubt that people are going to be trading Power 9 for Metalworkers. Who knows? So anyways, if there's anything you'd like to see from this podcast, throw me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm trying to keep it relatively short today, and I hope to bring other episodes, short content. If I get any major trades or any awesome adventures on PucaTrade, I definitely want to update everyone on my progress. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for checking out episode 1 of the Adventures in Trading podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JoshLikesCards. Would love to hear from everybody in the Discord app and on PucaTrade. Again, at JoshLikesCards. If you like this podcast, click subscribe. Would love to hear from everybody in the comments. Thanks.